You ever notice how the word yes can feel so small when you say it, but so heavy after you've said it? Welcome to Mind Care is Self-Care, where we don't just talk about mental health, we protect it, we rebuild it, and we learn how to live in a way that actually sustains us. And today, we're talking about something that almost everyone struggles with, but very few people actually confront honestly. Because what if I told you that one of the biggest threats to your mental and physical health is not stress from work, not lack of sleep, but your inability to say no? That every time you say yes to something you don't have the energy for, every time you agree just to avoid discomfort, every time you prioritize someone else at the expense of yourself, you are not just being nice. You are slowly draining your body, your mind, and your identity. And the scary part is, it doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. It feels polite. It feels responsible. It feels like the right thing to do. But your body knows the truth, even when your mouth doesn't say it. Because the moment you say a yes, you don't mean something shifts internally. Your chest tightens just a little. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your mind starts calculating how you're going to survive what you just agreed to. And that is not just stress. That is your nervous system recognizing a violation. Most people don't realize this, but there is a biological response called the fawn response. It's a survival mechanism. When your brain perceives a threat, not necessarily physical danger, but emotional discomfort, conflict, rejection, it tries to keep you safe by making you agreeable, by making you compliant, by making you say yes, even when everything inside you is saying no. So when you people please, you're not weak. You're responding to a deeply wired survival pattern. But here's the problem. That pattern was designed for short-term safety, not for long-term living. Because when you stay in that state too long, your body never gets to relax. Your system stays activated. Your cortisol levels stay elevated. And over time, that creates a constant internal pressure that starts to show up physically. This is why you feel exhausted after social interactions that were supposed to be fun. This is why you get headaches after saying yes to things you didn't want to do. This is why your sleep is restless even when you're technically tired. Because your body is carrying the weight of every unauthentic decision you've made. And it adds up. It shows up in your digestion. It shows up in your energy levels. It shows up in your immune system. It shows up in that quiet feeling of burnout that you can't quite explain. Because on paper, everything looks fine. But internally, you're overwhelmed. Not because you're doing too much, but because too much of what you're doing isn't aligned with you. And that's where the real cost begins. Because people-pleasing doesn't just drain your energy, it slowly erases your sense of self. When you constantly adjust to meet other people's expectations, you stop asking yourself what you actually want. You stop checking in with your own needs. You stop listening to your own signals. And over time, something very subtle but very serious happens. Your boundaries disappear. Not because someone took them from you, but because you stopped recognizing them. You start saying yes automatically. You start agreeing before you even think. You start living in reaction instead of intention. And then one day, you find yourself feeling resentful. Not just tired, but frustrated, irritated, disconnected. Because deep down, there's a part of you that knows you've been giving more than you have and receiving less than you need. But instead of expressing that, you suppress it. You smile. You keep showing up. You keep being the reliable one. And that resentment doesn't disappear. It just goes inward. It turns into emotional exhaustion. It turns into mental fatigue. It turns into a version of you that feels stuck, even though you're doing everything right. This is what I call the high-functioning martyr. Someone who looks fine on the outside, but internally is running on empty. Always available. Always helpful. Always accommodating. But never fully at peace. Because their life is built around avoiding discomfort instead of honoring truth. And the truth is, saying no feels uncomfortable. It feels risky. It can feel like you're letting people down. It can feel like you're being selfish. But here's the shift you need to understand. Discomfort is not danger. Your brain might treat it like a threat, but it's not actually harming you. In fact, it's protecting you. Because every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you are saying yes to your health, yes to your energy, yes to your peace. And that's where the transformation begins. But you can't just jump from always saying yes to suddenly setting perfect boundaries. It doesn't work like that. You need awareness first. You need to start noticing the moment before you say yes. That split second where your body reacts. That hesitation. That subtle resistance. That's your signal. That's your internal truth trying to get your attention. Most people ignore it. They override it. They push through it. But what if instead you paused? What if you gave yourself permission to not answer immediately? What if you said, "Let me think about it"? That one sentence can change everything. Because it creates space. And in that space, you can actually choose. Not react. Not default, but decide. And when you decide from a place of awareness, your yes becomes real. And your no becomes powerful. Now let's talk about how to actually say no without feeling like you're destroying your relationships. Because this is where most people get stuck. They think boundaries mean conflict. They think saying no means rejection. But that's not true. A healthy no doesn't attack. It doesn't blame. It doesn't over-explain. It's clear. It's honest. And it's calm. You don't need a long excuse. You don't need to justify your exhaustion. You don't need to prove that you're overwhelmed. A simple, "I won't be able to make it this time. I don't have the capacity for that right now. I need to focus on something else." That is enough. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. Your body might react. Your mind might try to convince you to take it back. But that discomfort is temporary. What's not temporary is the relief that follows. The energy you get back. The clarity you start to feel. Because every time you honor your boundary, you rebuild trust with yourself. And that trust changes everything. You start feeling more stable, more grounded, more in control of your life. And something else starts to happen. Your relationships change. Because the people who respect you will adjust. They will understand. They will meet you where you are. And the ones who don't, the ones who only valued your yes, will start to fall away. And that's not loss. That's alignment. Because real connection is not built on compliance. It's built on honesty, on mutual respect, on the ability to show up as you are, not as who you think you need to be. And when you reach that point, when your yes is genuine and your no is respected, you start living differently. You have more energy, more creativity, more mental clarity. You stop feeling like you're constantly behind. You stop feeling like you're being pulled in every direction. Because your life is no longer controlled by external demands. It's guided by internal truth. And that's the goal. Not perfection, not isolation, but alignment. Where your actions match your capacity. Where your choices support your well-being. Where your life feels sustainable, not exhausting. So if you've been feeling drained lately, if you've been saying yes when you mean no, if you've been putting everyone else first and wondering why you feel empty, this is your sign to pause, to check in, to start choosing differently. Because your health, your peace, your energy, they matter. And protecting them is not selfish. It's necessary. If this message resonated with you, take a moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I saying yes when I really mean no? Start there. And if you're ready to take this deeper, if you want to rebuild your mental clarity, your boundaries, and your emotional strength, stay connected with Mind Care is Self-Care, because this is what we do here. We don't just survive, we learn how to live well. Take care of your mind, because your mind is your life.